Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Welcome all to our visitors, and please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All righty. Trustee Irons, would you mind reading the mission statement?
Lakeland Joint School District's daily mission is to maximize student learning and ensure every student is growing academically, social, emotionally, and behaviorally every day in all environments.
All right, thank you. Okay, Chelsea, do we have any patron input? Okay. All right, for the consent agenda, it looks like we have the minutes from the previous meeting. Does anybody have any input, comments, or concerns from those minutes?
They all looked, they looked fairly accurate. Actually, I enjoyed it. The only thing is underneath item number 7, it was just worded sort of strange. It was me talking about item 9. It says she does not feel that based on the training and input that the district, and we should probably just say should you not or shouldn't. I don't know. It just seems like it's worded right, but it's correct. That was the only thing. I get what she's trying to say, but
does it need to be reworded?
No, I guess not.
Okay. Because there's no problem in rewording if we need to.
It's based on the district. Take out the word not after should, because we already said not. So it says she does not feel that based on the training and input that the district should use the clerk of the board as coordinator.
Okay. Okay. Based on that, if I could have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented with the one correction of removing the word not in item number 7.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda with the mentioned modifications.
Approve the consent agenda with the
Approve
modifications.
the consent agenda with the appropriate modifications.
Perfect.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Right, next we have, we have the HR items, which were part of the consent agenda. So since we just worded that one with the consent agenda and we didn't discuss the other items, how do we change that? Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Would you please amend your
Yes,
motion?
I would like to amend my motion to
Yes.
state that I am approving the minutes with the modifications we just discussed.
Okay.
And I'll second that.
Right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to the second item on the consent agenda, which is the HR items. Does anyone have any discussion regarding the HR memo or any of the Resignations or anything?
Trustee Reins.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the HR items as presented?
I make a motion to approve the HR items.
I'll second that.
Having a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Okay, finally, on the consent agenda, we have the regular and special bills. Are there any? Well, I have some questions. So, Mr. Wallace, would you like to come on up? Questions. One of my biggest thingies is on the sewer that we're paying, Tli Sewer. Can I ask, did we consult them to find out during COVID when the school was not utilizing anything, if we could have any form of reduction for what was being paid?
For the Twin Lake sewer?
Yes.
No, usually it's if there's any, it's a meter. And if there's.
It's a set amount. I have TLI, so I
Correct.
know
So,
about
yeah,
it.
so
It's really
for
nuts.
the base amount, then it's what we're charged. I guess we could reach out and say if we had reduced usage, do we get a discount?
Well, I mean, it's the fact of the matter is there was no usage. I mean, it's not like me who was quarantined or, said, stay home, don't go anywhere. And I'm still utilizing my stuff. No one was at the school. And that just seems like quite a hefty bill to have to pay for no usage for so long. I mean, the school was shut down. And I noticed that like the water services and everything else did show a decline because there wasn't the usage.
We can certainly reach out to them. My guess is a lot of times on water districts or sewer districts in cities that have sewer cap fees, they have set fees that they're paying to run the waste treatment plant every month, regardless of volume, some of those costs. And it's sort of a set amount, and I don't think there's a whole lot of wiggle room, but we can reach out.
Okay, because I did notice like even the city, our fees dropped down for the spell than when we were not in school. So it just kind of frustrates me because I'm very familiar with TL Sewer. That frustrates me for that great of an expense for no usage. Because it wasn't our doing.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying
Okay.
that we may not have any wiggle room. Just
Okay. If you could reach out to them though and discuss that with them and find out.
Yeah, we can find out.
Okay, I would appreciate that. We are paying for childcare at Countryside Childcare. Is that correct?
Yes.
We need to provide childcare for an alternative school.
Okay.
And if there's one student, we do the cost analysis. So the ICCP funds pay for that. But it has to be provided by law to have an alternative school. So that's what that is.
Okay, perfect.
I just don't want to use any names or clarify.
Right.
Oh, no, I wasn't asking for that. I just wanted to confirm. What is the professional E-rate counseling service that we paid for a year for funds for learning?
So that's a consulting service. So they help us stay in compliance with the federal E-rate program, doing the whole E-rate process. It's probably the most complex federal program out there. I was, since I'm so old, when I was a tech director, I did the E-rate program and RFPs. I did it at schools where I did what they call the 470s, 471s, 486s. These are all the 472s. My binder for I had a year 1, year 2, because I started year 1. It is a crazy amount. The compliance is super complex. Several years ago, I know that Mr. Tom Taggart, one of my predecessors, he was doing the E-rate program, they finally went to a consultant. One of the reasons is we had a compliance issue,
Okay.
and it wasn't really anybody's fault, but it's really horrible.
Mhm.
And we went with a consultant who helped rectify that, and actually it was several $100,000 we might have had to write a check for non-compliance. So we used that consultant for several years. Last year we changed the funds for learning to the firm that Coeur d'Alene uses. Their fees are a little lower, and they're like the major consultant for E-rate throughout the nation, and so that's what they provide, helping us with the complexity of the program.
Okay, and then for those of us that don't understand, what is E-rate?
Oh, so E-rate is it's a federal program from the Universal USAC, so Universal Service Administration Corporation, and we're in the schools and libraries division. And really, it was the program that on your phone bill, there's a fee called the USAC fee. If you ever look at your phone bill, that's where the funding comes from. And the idea was to subsidize the cost of getting phone service to rural areas, right?
Okay.
And if you have to run a phone line up to Twin Lakes to 4 customers, it's not worth throwing that hole.
Right.
So it sort of subsidizes that, and that's been around since, that portion. So they've always, in the 90s, they started helping schools and libraries with their telecommunication costs.
Okay.
They no longer subsidize phone costs, but they do subsidize, we get discounts on our internet service. So we pay for our internet and also our wide area network. So you see those bills of that being for like $20,000 a month.
Right.
We get a discount of 65–70% off that on the revenue side. They help us with the claim, we get that reimbursed. And also some of those projects that you've seen where we've upgraded our wireless network, our switches and all that. I'm getting those at 30 cents on the dollar through the E-rate program when we have to apply and do RFPs and that, and they help us with that process. Okay. So yeah, it's a federal program. It's not guaranteed. I mean, at any time it could go away, and they've changed it throughout the years, but it's really to help us with connectivity, and they've changed their focus from phone bill to really subsidizing and helping us make internet access more affordable for students.
They just kept up with the times.
Yeah, it took them a while to get.
Yeah.
Okay, and then what is the iReady again?
It's a curriculum.
No, it's a program.
Oh, it's a program.
It's a program. We have iReady Math, we have iReady Reading.
Okay.
It's a diagnostic.
Okay.
It has pathways, it has supporting materials. It's an online program.
Okay.
We're doing some piloting with that at my station this year, and then possibly doing some piloting with Math next year.
Okay. I show we paid a match account submission to the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare.
That's for Medicaid.
Okay, but just because I'm still trying to wrap my head around everything, was that part of that? Like, here's that, because wasn't it like 90,000 sits here, but then you move it over there, and is that part of that thingy? Yeah.
So for the way they, it's a little crazy. So when you submit a claim, let's say we provide Medicaid services that are reimbursable, and we submit a claim, and if it's $1,000, they will give us out of that 1,000, we only let's say we'll get 700. There's a sharing of the cost, so they don't reimburse you for the full cost of their weighted scale. So we have to have a match, and what we have to do though is we have to have, before they'll send us the 700, is we have to have the 300 down there before. So we actually, there's a account deposit, we send them just sort of $20,000, and then as we claim reimbursements, they take from that their match and then send us money back. Okay. And then every so often we have to replenish it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I did notice that we bought splash guards for football helmets, and you kindly wrote COVID funds. next to it. I'm curious, the Chromebooks that we bought, the PC Chromebook parts and then the tech pipeline, were any of those Chromebooks purchased with
That
COVID money?
$200,000 was all with the governor's,
Okay, that was the supplemental
The-
money or COVID
yeah,
money or
there's-
whatever we call it.
Right now, there's literally like 4 pots. to
Okay.
fix things, and there's probably more coming.
And he did do a
Okay.
spreadsheet when he did the presentation, so you could see where it was and
Okay.
have access. to
Yeah, I
it.
didn't even have the CARES Act.
Yeah.
But,
There's still SR2 funds.
right, so there was the COVID relief fund that came from the governor that had to be expended
Right,
by December. That came from those funds.
okay,
Then we have ESSER or CARES funds, but we haven't spent any of those yet
okay,
because we have no time. And then CARES 2 is coming,
okay,
which we haven't got official notification, but it's more. And according to, I actually just had a Zoom call with Greg Wilson, who's the government's liaison for education policy, that he talked to his counterparts in Washington DC, and it's likely there's going to be, well, CARES 3 is going to be coming, right?
Mhm.
So there's a lot. But yes, that was, all that technology was from, almost the one initiative that came from the federal dollars.
okay. And then on, we paid Lakeland back for football, volleyball per diems, and plexiglass desk dividers. Is the plexiglass portion coming out of the COVID
Yes.
umbrella?
Yeah.
Okay,
So, and some of that is when we were doing some of the COVID things to be expedient.
mhm,
The high school, I think it was Lakeland High for that, they did some of their, they just wanted to wrap and trading post and got some plexiglass right away, and then they asked us to, they sort of did out their account. And we just sort of paid
Okay.
them back.
okay, good. And then all of our different snow removals and de-icings, do we have contracts with all these places? We do?
Yeah, we usually sign the agreements every year.
Okay.
And then, and we budget, I think this year I budgeted about $128,000, we're well below that because of the year.
Yeah, we've had,
But that's sort of what we've been budgeting each year, and that's, unless it's a really tough year, it's more to cover the cost.
okay. And then we bought annual teacher membership for study.com.
Yeah, that's a study program.
Yeah, I know, I use it.
Okay, so we use it for years, so it's an annual membership that they have.
Is that for all the teachers or just the online academy?
I assume it's for like on Academy, but if you want to email me questions, I can come prepared with answers, so you can have it for your time, but it's difficult if I don't know ahead of time, that for Brian and I, I mean, he's obviously more familiar, he's answered all the questions, but if we could know ahead of time, so we can come with information for you, that would be great.
Okay. All right, well, those were just my questions for this, for these bills. Does anybody else have any? Okay. Then can I get a motion to approve, thank you, Brian, to approve the February bills list as presented?
I'll move that we approve the regular and special bills list for February as presented.
I'll second the motion.
Having motion and second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Okay, so we move on to staff reports.
So, I'd like to introduce Susie Moore, you've met her with before, come on up. Look how nice you look. Leaving school bus. Yes. So if you just push, this is what they did, but I will get.
Yeah. Madam Chair, trustees, and Dr. Meyer, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity. My name is Susie Moore, as many of you know. But before I get to my slides, I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. I started driving the school bus here in 1988. I've worked here for over 30 years. And in 2002, in addition to driving my route, I took on the task of training bus drivers. In 2003, I took first place at state in the school bus safety competition, which gave me the privilege
of entering the national competition at Lake Tahoe, Nevada. In 2006, I accepted the position of Assistant Transportation Director, and I've been in this position coming up on 3 years now. All right, so who are we? So you can see we're 55 currently. Interesting fact, of that 55, 10 of us, me included, went to school here at Lakeland. So besides me in the office is my Assistant Director, Jessica Daynard, our Administrative Assistant, Tekla Patrol, and 2 mechanics, Bert Thorson and Rod Heiston. Now we have 10 aides right now and 40 bus drivers, looking for more. But besides being the first staff that the kids see in the morning, oftentimes they're the first adults that the students see. So they're always ready with their good morning greeting to the kids they get on. So unlike the elementary teachers who only have the students for maybe 1 year, the nice thing about being a bus driver is you can have the same kids for many years and form that nice bond with them. Our mission. Well, our main goal is to transport them safely and ready to learn. In our vision, well, we strive to continue to be the safest mode of transportation to and school, and also to be an integral part of the student's education. Well, of course, safety is our first priority, and training is a huge reason for a good record. New drivers have to pass all knowledge and skills tests from the State Department of Education curriculum. Then they're required to learn an extensive pre-trip inspection of the bus and spend at least 10 hours behind the wheel. Now, when the trainer feels that they're ready, they have to pass a driver evaluation, and only then will we bring in the state examiner. Testing isn't over yet. Now they have to pass a vehicle inspection test, a basic control test, and a road test. And then they can get their CDL. But all drivers are required by the state to complete 10 hours of documented training each year, and 3 years of that has to be in the fall before school starts. The inspections due to the state by the mechanics are quite extensive. So on our general ed buses, they have 128 inspection points. And then our special needs buses have 135. So it keeps them quite busy in addition to everything else. So let's go on to some facts. So earlier this year, we averaged just over about 1,100 students each day, which was low due to COVID. And this semester, we're registered probably around 100 more. We're getting more every day. So that's good. Oh, I see why I'm so tired every day, over 3,000 miles. I figure that's like me going back to New York and visiting my sister every day. Oh, yeah. All right. So the average age of our fleet is older than we'd like, but it's definitely better than it was. We got 4 new buses last year, and you guys were so nice to allow us to have 3 new ones this year. All right, more facts. So we're about 1.8 million last year, and unfortunately, the state doesn't reimburse all our costs. But as you can see, our cost per mile is something to be proud of. And when you think about us being as big as we are, the second lowest in the state.
Wow.
For cost per mile. So I know we can always do maybe better, but we're getting there.
And you're the second largest geographical miles.
Yeah.
So you've really done a great job.
Yeah.
Susie. That's amazing.
That's impressive.
Thank you. Try hard. Okay, so new this year, I got together this student management team. You know, a new bus driver is primarily trained to drive a bus. However, the most difficult part of driving a bus sometimes is student management. And this team will serve as mentors for new as well as experienced bus drivers and will be a great resource from a group that has collectively driven our school kids for over 130 years. So there'll be tips that they can give these bus drivers. What do I do with this? And what do I do with that? I know when we went to double routing, we had those drivers who only had high school kids were helping out the ones that only had grade school kids and vice versa. So we thought this might be a really good effective one. Safety competition. So training for this increases knowledge and driving skills. It develops an attitude of self-improvement and pride and builds a positive image for school bus drivers. And we gain public recognition for the valuable services that we provide by the pupil transportation system. And I can personally attest to those facts from participating in it myself. So before we get to the questions, I want to tell you a little bit about how much our drivers really care about their students. I mean, they buy them things all the time, snowsuits, presents, gifts, but you know how earlier I mentioned how they will say good morning to their students each day. So bus driver Mark said good morning and have a good evening every day to this particular student who never acknowledged him. He knew that she had kind of a rough home life and a tough time at school, so he felt all the more reason to acknowledge her. After 4 years of going through this and transporting this young lady, just before she graduated, she presented him with a thank you gift. Mark said that touched him more than anything else he had experienced in his bus driving. That's all I got. What do you got for me? Questions?
No, it sounds like you're doing an awesome job.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
does.
that's great.
Well done.
I really
Yeah.
like that mention. That's fantastic. Because you can't teach how to interact with kids. You can teach how to, drive a bus correctly. The interaction is probably.
And it's so different than any other. I mean, if a teacher comes in and says this is the way we do it in the classroom, it doesn't work on the bus. So, wow.
And Susie can tell you, I've done a ride along every year. I did 2 my first year, and then the next couple of years I've only done 1, and because of COVID I only did 1 last year as well. But every time when I ride along with the bus on a route, I've done different levels, different age levels, and different routes. Like she put me on some really long ones and some short ones, and then this is a really experienced driver, this is a really new driver. The same thing every time. I say the hardest job in the entire district would be to be a bus driver. You have to pay attention to all the rules of the road and drive, but then you have more than a class full. Like one Ruthie's bus had 68 kids on it. So that's 2 classrooms worth of students behind you while you're driving.
And it's not like you can say, don't make me pull this bus over. Right?
I'm telling you, I have so much respect for the bus drivers and what they do, and they're really great. I just want to give a huge kudos to Brian. You might want to say something as well because he's her direct supervisor. But she was an intern her first year, and she came and I think you guys met with the board. And at the end, there were drivers begging us, Brian and I, please let's keep Susie, because the morale and what she's done to build a team. They have potlucks, they do things for each other, they take care of each other. It's really become a strong family over there, and the morale and the attitude is just so positive. And I think it comes from the top, from Susie's.
Good
leadership.
job,
So,
Susie.
she's done a great
You're
job.
awesome. Well done.
Wallace, you want to add anything?
No, I think she's doing a great job. The funding department to go visit.
Next is the financial report.
Been here, Mr. Wallace.
Dr. Meyer, I always follow the presentations, there's so many ways in mine. Monthly finance report ties in, and some of the changes in this month that to highlight at least on the revenue side, as you can see, for the monthly activity that we received, over $4 million or almost, $5 million in local tax. So those are the December collections, and everybody, sees those statements come their way. They really get posted in January by the time the county processes them and actually sends the dollars forward to the different districts. So it is definitely sort of a big dollar month for us. This is one of the important months that fees come in. As far as cash flow.
I have a question on the tax. So when the people pay the property tax in December, what if they paid the whole year, which would include the following June? Do we get all that money, or does this county hold that June and then give it to us?
I believe we get it all.
So if they pay it in December, then they disperse?
I think they disperse it. I'd have to get a question with the county. I assume so.
Okay.
Or maybe we should. I wonder if the county holds it for interest.
Yeah.
I think they would, because like we get obviously some of this other local tax that come in, some of that is people catching up who didn't pay from several years ago, and there's a little bit going to each district. That they definitely forward that every month. When they if I paid in March, if I was behind and I only caught up, or I was on a payment plan, they do forward that every month.
Right.
So we get a little bit every month. So my guess is they forward it to us, because we are getting a monthly amount every month. You can see there's very little activity from state sources. We had a small claim on a small category funding. I can't remember what that was, and then we did get some E-rate dollars this month. We did a claim. There you go. So you can see that we didn't pay 10 consultants, but even this month we got a little bit of revenue for the cost. On the expenditure side, there was nothing out of the ordinary from the month to month. We're at that $2.8 million for the month. And honestly, that's actually very close to last month. This time of the year, things are sort of consistent. The important thing when we're looking at our fund balance and things like that this is getting close to the high point of the year for us. February might be the high point, because we will get a state February payment that we haven't received yet, but we should get later this month, that you'll see next month's report. But again, we're staying above last year's pace. We'll definitely start cutting into that and going back more towards this $5 million number throughout the rest of the year if we start eating into it.
Okay.
So our lowest cash flow months are really July and August and June, sort of, until we get a big state payment. But we're tracking well on our revenues. Our revenues are tracking a little higher. Part of that is we had a tighter budget this year, and expenditures are close to what we've done in previous years, so that's good. One thing on the revenue side I did want to talk about when we get a February payment. There are some changes to the legislature that how we estimated our state revenues for budget, they're sort of going to change the rules of the game a little bit, and they're going to fully fund the career ladder and take some money from discretionary. And they're also going to give some leadership dollars. There could be an impact. We're not sure what that's going to be. We really aren't going to know until May.
Right.
Because they're going to pay us now on how they're going to pay us and make the adjustment in May. Just really emphasize that is one advantage of having the fund balance, that we can, when things like that happen, we can sort of weather the storm if it becomes significantly negative. I don't know if it's too terrible, but there'll probably be an impact. Where I've talked to some accounting boards, we had a conference call. I told you with Greg Wilson, stuff like that, and some, our districts in South Iowa, or even around here, who it's a little tighter right now. They're very concerned with cash flow and things like that.
Right.
The mid-year changes.
So you mean the district didn't have a huge windfall of savings because of COVID?
No, but no, so far, no, we have not had a huge windfall of savings.
Okay, so COVID didn't save the district any money, and we're not hoarding money because COVID gave us
No.
all this money.
Well, but we do.
I just want to be clear. Thank you.
The federal government is $30, but like we're buying those Chromebooks faster than they can actually make them. The graphs expenditures again. We talked about the budget workshop. I call it function, but function program. If you want to look at it that way, the red line is we're about halfway through the year and we're getting close. And for the month, that green line should be pretty consistent every month, except for the end of the year. Sometimes you catch up in some areas, but we're tracking fine. And the same as we look at expenditures by object, the other way to look at the way we spend our dollars. And again, salaries and benefits are out of our general fund, are the majority of our expenditures. And finally, on enrollment, the one thing that is very interesting at why COVID is the year of no other year is this is actually our high point for the year. That's 4421. We're 86 kids more than last month. I mean, that's never happens. So, because usually you start losing some kids in the spring, that's sort of a typical pattern. And so definitely we're having some families more comfortable coming back to the system if they were holding them out and not comfortable with COVID. And so hopefully maybe some of the chaos and as people get vaccinated and cases go down, that we're getting more into a normal pattern because we're all, speaking for myself, very tired.
Yeah.
But here for any questions, but we're tracking fine. No surprises so far, except for that revenue.
Yeah, that looks good. That's great. I don't have any questions.
I don't either.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Next is the superintendent's report.
Okay, well, back again. We have the reopen plan has, I don't know at what point was this not going to be on the board agenda, but we have that reopen plan. The only change to it is inserting the activities plan for the governor's guidelines on stage 3. So it includes all of the extracurricular in our district we've prior talked about, and this is where it's located, right here in our yellow stage of operation, and it's right here under the extracurricular piece, and then also at the very bottom, I put it under resources. So those are the two changes, just inserting that in those 2 spots. That's the only change to the reopen plan this month.
It didn't appear that much of the language changed with what's required.
Yeah, it didn't change much at all. And then we still have that already that the board approved last board meeting about all extracurriculars related. So,
Right.
So keeping you informed on the levy information, just making sure that we get information out to the patrons and the parents and the public so that they're informed. One of the feedback that the board knows that we heard from the failed bond was that they felt like we didn't give enough information out. So we are really making sure we get factual information. On our website is loaded with information. That's that top link. Then also we have 4 mailers scheduled to go out to give factual information. We've done 2. And then we have almost daily, we have short mini clips going out with factual information. And there is a tax bill comparison, one that's going to be going out. Principals did a message that went out either yesterday, this week sometime. The principals sent information out in their buildings. And then we have how to do an absentee ballot video that shows how easy it is to put it in if people want to vote from the luxury of their own home. So we have that's going out this week. Then the community presentations, thankfully we are in stage 3. We thought we were going to have really not, we didn't know we were going to think we were going to be able to do these. So, and I did send an email to the board. We've done the Lakeland High School boosters. going to Timberlake High School Boosters, and then we've invited board representatives to be with us for the Lakeland Grafton area presentation. If one of the two trustees would join us for that on February 18th. Then up at Spirit Lake at Timberlake Junior High School, Madam Chair Thompson is going to go with us to that on Tuesday, February 23rd. And then Trustee Grissom is going to go with us to Athol's Community Hall for Wednesday report. So the other two would like to join. One or both of you let me know. That'd be great to have you there. So those are community presentations coming up. We also have a few smaller ones that we might be doing. We're just trying to put feelers out there and offer that to businesses in the areas or HOAs, any sort of group that wants to have us. I just want to remind everyone that's watching, hopefully a lot of people, that consistent communication, if people think we're over communicating, which I think we get accused of, our consistent communication is really the intention is that we want to have an educated citizen that is able to have all the facts before they make a decision. We certainly are not telling anybody how to vote. We want to increase voter turnout, and we've just made a really big campaign that we make sure everyone's aware. I think November proved to our community that people can get out and vote, whether it's absentee. It just was a great positive for our community, so we'd like to keep that trend going. Now for the great, this is also a separate presentation that Chelsea will share with you. You can look through again. It's also in my superintendent report, and then we're gonna, Chrissy will upload it to the website tonight. It's absolutely, I mean, I know I get excited, but this is like really, really good news. I did some deeper dive. I kind of gave you the overview last time, and I told you that in my annual report to you. And when I dove into the data, it's even better than I thought. So that's always nice to come back. I told you we have an amazing district, 96.7% for a graduation rate. That's the 4-year graduation rate. So if you look at the 4-year, they're looking at a cohort who started back in 9th grade, and then 4 years. That's the number of the cohort. People that move in at the number of the cohort started in 9th grade and make it to the senior year. Lakeland High School, Mr. Everland's probably, if he's watching me now, the last couple of years he's been Lakeland High School. They always have a really healthy competition, but he's been, and so I said, oh, look what happened. I had his IQ up here. And then like, oh, Lakeland High School beat you by 0.3. And so he's like, I don't know how that happened. But so congratulations to all of our schools, because look at this, 97.5, 97.2. I mean, that is absolutely, I don't know if anyone understands how phenomenal that is to get that number of kids graduated and on to the next stage of life. That is in our mission that every single student matters. But Mountain View, a special shout out, and you know, I've talked to Mr. Uzi, who was here earlier, but how wonderful. This right here shows the dedication and the pieces you were all talking about for his dedication for kids. They've done an amazing job. 87%, the highest alternative school in the entire state, again, for the 2nd year in a row. But even more impressive, when you think about alternative school kids, those are students, the way you are eligible to go, if there's state law, you cannot just attend an alternative school, you have to be eligible, you have to pass, there's certain things in state law. One of them is that you are behind in credits for graduation. So inherently, to become an alternative school student, there's several indicators which we can go through later. But inherently, you would be behind in credits. So if you look at them having one more extra year to get that 5th year to catch up on credits, they're at 96.4. That's unheard of. That means that the dedication, they're not dropping out, they're staying with them, and they're doing what they need to do to get those kids to the finish line. Absolutely phenomenal. Just a huge kudos to Mr. Uzi and his entire staff there at Mountain View. It's just amazing what they're doing. I think Moose Connections, which is a brand new thing he started last year, where they're making a kind of an advocacy, an advisor time, and a Moose Connections, they call it. I think that relationship building, employability skills, checking in with all of them, really has made a huge difference on keeping those kids there.
And the mock, they just did the Rathrooms mock council or commission there. That was really cool.
Yeah. Mr. Gordon, he's the principal. So every student matters. We talk about it over and over and over again, but it really is truly, if people, I was interviewed several years ago about what really makes a difference in this district. And it keeps coming back every single time. It's like people, and if you see at Mrs. Milton's principal thing today with her video, there is a kid that just off the cusp talks about kids just do not, Mr. Bradbury, a kid at your school, just sitting there just off the cuff says, teachers at this school just will not give up on you. Like he's just like almost like, I just can't believe it. And it's really true. It just keeps coming up over and over again. And I think you can tell. So there's 136 districts in our state with charters, districts, because a charter school is its own district, and they don't have an elected board. They get to choose their board members. And then we have districts. So in total, we have 116, districts, like our kind of district, and then there's the additional charter schools. So there's 136 districts. You can see our cohort for this LSU graduation is 366. This was our graduation for this 4-year cohort for 2020. Charter districts, there was only 8 charter districts in the entire charter. You remember I've said this is apples and oranges because they don't follow the same, they don't have the same regulations we do. They don't have same programs. They aren't held to the same standards that we are, but they also aren't able, there's some negatives. They can't run a bond or a levy or anything. So there's differences just inherently in the way that they are operating. So it's not necessarily an apples to apples comparison, but 8 charter districts are higher percentage ranging, their cohorts are between 3 students and 48. Well, that's a lot different than having 366. So the only charter districts that have beat us in graduation rate are between 3 and 48 students for their cohort. There's 17 public school districts that are higher than us for percentage. 14 are less than 55. So that you think that, but those are pretty small school districts, rural, very rural. Not to make a stereotype, but I've been in some of those districts and they're like, Johnny, you were staying until you graduated and you were not, I'm not letting you drop out. So they're very, like, they've got a lot of 1-to-1 ratio to help those kids. And I'm not making any excuses for it. I'm just saying that there is a difference. There's 2 districts that are less than 86. So they're between 55 and 86 students. And there's only 1 district that is right at 171, Sugar State. They're the only one that beat us that's even close to our number of cohort. So our district, zero districts are within the graduation that have a graduation rate. We're the highest for every district over 172. We have the highest graduation rate in the entire state for any district over 172 cohorts that are going to graduate.
That's awesome.
Just let that sink in. Like, is that amazing or what? That is so amazing. So look at our surrounding, and I'm not trying to make unhealthy competition, but this does come up a lot. And I think it's important when people start, we talked about it at our budget workshop on Tuesday, when people start saying, well, where can you save money, or how does this district fund, or what do you do different in this district? And we talked a lot about small neighborhood schools, how much our staff truly cares about. The only way you can have this high graduation rate is if teachers never give up on a child. Every single student matters. It's the only way you get there. So if you look, our state total for graduation rate, 82.1%. 82.1% for the state. And that's the bell-shaped curve. We're saying the best of the best, the smallest, the biggest, the largest, 52,000 students at West Data. I mean, this is all of them. It's 82.1% the average. You can see West Bonner is 76.7. Lake Pond Ray is 88.7. Coeur d'Alene is 91.5. Oh, look, here's Lakeland, 96.7. Post Falls, 88.6. Moscow, 87.4. And I always like to put Moscow, it's not in our region, but boy, oh boy, Moscow is always like the silver shining star up here because they're in the university town and their levy rate is $7 and something. I mean, there's a lot of us compare to Moscow because they really do a lot of things well, and they try out things first a lot because they're right in university town and there's a lot of pro-education, tons of pro-education in Moscow. So I just really want us to be super proud of the positive things we're doing, and I think our grade report, if we look at anything, of course, we always want to look at our math scores and our reading scores and how are our kids doing and how are they feeling about school, all of that, everything, academically, social, emotionally, behaviorally. But this is a real report card for how our district's doing for you all. Like, what is your staff doing for the board to show you that we're being successful? This is a huge indicator right here.
Yeah, we should be the shining star.
Yes.
Yes.
And so what I want to know is, being that the state and the legislature, wants to make sure that teachers are teaching and hold their feet to the fire, do we get any stipend for that?
I would love, put that in the minutes. I think that would be an amazing thing to say, what is an indicator that your district's doing? If you have somebody from K-12 and they've gone to school for 13 years, or even come in and we have to catch them up, and you have 96.7% of your students are graduating, my gosh, everyone in that district should get an extra stipend.
Yeah.
It's an amazing idea.
Something. I mean, what is the reward if everybody's working that hard and here's the proof? Where is the reward? Just a question.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
But that costs. It costs. Yeah.
I really think, I think this is something for me to follow up on. I really do like that you just asked that. I think that's a great way to look at it, especially with the way the legislature is always coming down, and this is what we need to do better. Let's really celebrate.
We've done it, so
Yes.
now what?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's great. I just think it speaks to Lakeland's history, no matter what others may say. You can't, it's in the numbers.
It's
all there is to
undeniable,
it.
right there.
Fact.
And it helps to be in school 5 days a week. I just had to say that. That's awesome. That's great.
Yes.
So I'm hoping that next year we'll still be in the top.
Yes. Well, we did improve even from 2019. We've improved up every year since I've been here. We've improved. So it's not about me. I'm not saying it's because I'm here. I'm just saying that every year we keep going up and up. But I mean, the credit really goes to the people that work in the schools every day. I mean, you think about all the custodians, you think about the bus drivers, like Susie just talked about, we pick them up in the morning, our mission statement. The minute we pick them up in the morning, they greet them and you see how much they care about their kids. The whole difference of everything is every single student matters, and people are not falling through the cracks in this district. They just do. Nobody lets people fall through the cracks. It just makes all the difference. And I do believe that the way that we're funded, and I just feel like it really, not being political at all, but just saying it's because our staff to student ratio is at a desirable rate where people can check in and check daily, and just hearing stories over and over and over again about how valued our students are. I think parents are really, really going to be pleased with this.
It's great.
So that's our mission statement. We maximize student learning every day, and every student's growing academically, social, emotionally, behaviorally, every day in all our environments. The minute we pick them up in the morning, that great yellow bus that you talked about, to the minute we drop them off at night, it really is true. So I just wanted to share that. Anybody has questions, we'll put this on the website. I also put a couple of slides in for our upcoming. This is new information that I'll put into our community presentation. I didn't have to do before. Thank you for letting me brag about this wonderful.
Yay.
business.
Yeah.
Well done. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's
Thank
great.
you. Yes. Moving on to an action item. There you go. Perfect. Thank you. The board may take action to approve, deny, amend, modify, or postpone action on any of the items listed below. First item is the Lakeland Joint School District 272 Fall Reopen Plan Update. Because we have moved to stage 3, we do need to approve or deny the update to the Fall Reopen Plan. Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I'll move to approve the fall reopen plan, 2020 reopen plan is presented.
I'll second that motion.
All right, having a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Okay, the next item up for action is the update to 5740P, the reduction in force procedure. Does anyone have any questions on the clean presentation that was, the clean procedure that was provided?
I'm fine with it.
Okay. Good.
No?
Okay. Then we would need a motion on that, on the update to 5740P, reduction in force procedure.
I'll move to approve the updated language to the 5740 reduction in force procedure.
I'll second that.
Having a motion and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Okay, we have an update to policy 1500 board meetings. This was brought for first reading last week, or last board meeting. No one had any input or revisions. So we are able to approve the updates if we would like.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the update to policy 1500 board meetings?
I'll make a motion to update the policy to 1500 board meetings.
I'll second the motion.
Did you say motion to approve?
Okay, finally, my board book is up here again. I guess I
Oh,
didn't say it
sorry.
right. Let me say it
That's
again.
okay.
I was just trying to, okay, I will make a motion to approve the update to policy 1500.
Yes, yes, yes.
That's it?
Yes,
Okay.
great.
I'll second the motion.
Perfect.
Okay.
Having a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion's carried. We have an update to policy 3300, drug-free school zone. Is that, okay, that's the one where they just add, we did the tobacco products, yeah. Okay, so it was presented at the last board meeting for first read, and there were no comments, concerns, or revisions. So would someone like to make a motion to approve the update to policy 3300 drug-free school zone?
I'm going to approve the update to policy 3300 drug-free school zone.
Second that.
Having a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. The next action item is policy 3285, sexual harassment, discrimination, and retaliation, Title IX. I believe we're still working through this.
And I think what we decided was that the policy, we fixed all the things in the policy according to what we had learned. It was the procedure that we are still moving through because the procedure needed a lot more work to it. But the
Got it.
policy, I think, we're good to go.
Okay.
It was just getting the titles correct and the information correct, and we're all done with that on the policy.
Okay, perfect.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve policy 3285, sexual harassment, discrimination, and retaliation, Title IX.
I'll second that.
All right, having a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. All right, we now need to set the fiscal year 2020 budget hearing. Each year we set the budget hearing for the first meeting in June by statute, which apparently this year is June 10th, 2021. So would someone like to make a motion to approve the fiscal year 2021 budget hearing for June 10th, 2021 at 5 p.m.?
So we have that, like, the beginning of, yeah. I move to approve to set fiscal year 2021 budget hearing for June 10th, 2021 at 5 p.m.
I'll second that.
Having a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to discussion items. Do we have anything to discuss?
I'm sorry. Just need to remember what it was. We do need to discuss something going forward. And it is.
Oh, you are correct. Thank you.
Forgot what it was.
Tomorrow is the expiration for the first month run for the trustee applications up for Zone 1. I do believe we've had 3 applications. Is that correct? Or is it 4? 3? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we need to set a time to interview them. Would that be at the next board meeting, or do we set that
Let's see what.
separate? Or what? I don't
That's
recall
you
what
had
we did.
initially said,
Okay.
but the board can certainly decide to do something different if that's what you'd like.
Okay. Because I don't recall, because when we did it before, it was on Zoom.
Yeah.
And I don't remember if that fell in line with a meeting or not.
It was on a meeting.
It was on a meeting
Yeah.
day. Okay.
And one thing that the board is concerned about, to make sure to ask the same, you wanted all of them on at the same time.
Correct.
And in the past, the applicants have been sitting in front of the board all together to be asked the same questions.
Right.
It's just that was on Zoom.
Right.
When Trustee Baker was. But to ask the same question.
Okay. So we would need to determine what questions we would want to ask. And I believe, is there like,
You have a bank already of
More
questions.
questions.
You can certainly change them, but Chrissy does have a bank of questions that you used last time. And you pick from those, you can look at those again and you can certainly add to them beforehand.
okay, that would be great if we could have those questions beforehand so we can decide what we want to ask.
And then the board can decide tomorrow when it closes, we'll see if there's any other applicants. Then the board probably should discuss right now an open meeting if the minimum of 3 is enough for you to continue, or you'd like to open it, because the board can also open it for another 30 days and say, well, let's wait and see if we get more applicants. If you don't think 3 is enough, that's an option, but we have to decide so that we can set up the interviews for at least 3, or if we get more tomorrow.
And I'm good with 3.
So,
Yeah, 3 is a good number.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd rather get the position filled. than
yeah, I
keep
agree.
waiting.
And early enough in the year, especially with budget and everything that's coming, and
Yeah.
they're gonna need training, and I think it's important as close as we can do it to January as possible. Would be great. So,
To January.
well, we are close enough
Okay.
to January.
Gotcha.
I mean, we're not
Okay.
gonna
Yes,
get
No,
into
I'm-
January as
Yeah.
possible, but yeah.
Right,
Okay.
the beginning of
Got
the
it.
year.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
So it closes tomorrow, then you were thinking to put this on the next meeting, the 25th?
Believe so.
Yeah, that's what we had on the calendar that the board's timeline was.
Okay.
If
Oh,
I think part of your thinking was, that you had shared, is that you would read the applications, have time to look through the interview questions, and then at that time, you would be doing the interviews at the board meeting.
Okay.
And then you could, that's all an open session, and then there's pieces of paper.
Right.
Remember, you have to write down the name and you pass it over, and then the
Right.
clerk and I tap in, speak Allison right here.
Okay.
Who voted for who.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I suppose we just-
Sorry, I'm having technical difficulties. No. Go on ahead. Yes, ma'am. Please.
So our policy states that trustees will consider all applications during an open session.
Yes.
And I just want to remind you that when you guys do those interviews,
Uh-huh.
they don't start that meeting, they would be actually appointed at the following meeting. So as long as it's during an open session that you're considering your candidates.
So what I hear you saying is that we would be interviewing them on the next board meeting. And then based on that decision, if it would be similar to what occurred on Zoom, so they would leave, we would make the decision, they would be called, they would come back to the next board meeting in March.
No, you can
No.
tell them the
Okay.
decision that night.
Okay.
so They would be officially sworn in and following.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Got it.
And I just want to make it clear, you don't have to wait until it's the board's decision. If you want to have a special meeting,
Right. That's what I'm saying.
I just wanted, you had talked about waiting till the February break. I'm
Okay.
just saying, if you decide you want to do another meeting next week instead, and do it's open. You
I
have-
think we should do that.
That's
That's my
up to the
vote,
board.
is to
Okay.
do a meeting next week,
Okay,
but that's
Rob?
just me. I mean,
If that's all that's really on the meeting.
I think it would be
If it's
nice.
Three
Yeah,
meetings plus all the workshops and the extracurriculars.
well, I
Yeah.
do think it would be nice to have just a meeting for that instead of a board meeting on top of all of that.
I guess that would be dependent upon if it would work out for all three of them.
It would just be consideration of the resumes. So that's all that we would do, is we would create a special meeting, consideration of resumes, we would discuss that, and then we would schedule those applicants to come to the meeting, correct?
oh, I thought we were gonna do it all at once.
Yeah, I thought because
Oh.
they applied and we're accepting the applications as presented, that we would be interviewing them.
All at the same time.
Correct. Is that not correct?
Yeah.
Chrissy, what is
Okay.
the policy number you were referring to?
It's 11:40.
And just for timing, it could not be next Thursday unless it was earlier during the day. Because we will be presenting, and hopefully one board member will be with us presenting at the Lakeland High School for the levy.
Okay, does next Tuesday have anything on it?
I'll be presenting at Apple City Council, but
Okay, so what I hear you saying is our Tuesdays and Thursdays are levy focused. Okay. What about Wednesday or
Wednesday we have, you can do it
or Friday?
after the Day on the Hill. We're here for Day on the Hill, open meeting law,
Okay,
workshop, note sharing with the ISBA debrief. So that's on Wednesday from 3 to 5, but you can certainly amend that and do it that day while you're all here anyway.
Let's do that. Let's,
do it that
I
day,
like.
since we're already here. Okay. Okay. So what day is that?
That's
Because it's not on the calendar that I'm
Yeah,
looking at.
Wednesday, I have it on the board calendar.
Yeah.
And I invited
Is
you all.
it?
Okay.
I don't know. I pulled up the calendar thing.
It's
And-
purple. I have it as purple, so it's on here from 3 to 5. I reserved it.
Oh, wait.
That's one
Okay.
thing.
No, stop that.
So that's from 3 to 5 on Wednesday, February 17th. So if you want to do it,
It is there. I can see it. You just got to poke the square.
it's still at 3, right?
Yeah, 3 to 5.
Okay.
So then after that, 5 o'clock, would that work with everyone to do the interviews at that time? Okay.
okay. So let me clarify to make sure we're all on the same page. If you want to change anything, I want to know now in open session. Chelsea would call all of the applicants, say, tomorrow, obviously we'll close it until it closes tomorrow. And if there's any other applicant, she would call them and say, the board is going to interview you Wednesday, February 17th at 5 p.m. at the district office. And they'll have your application packet and they're going to ask you interview questions and everyone will be sitting in one panel. Please show up a little bit before 5 so we can start right at 5. Then the candidates would come in and you guys I will send you tomorrow the questions. You can all review and see if you want to add or delete. And then you would go in a circle like you did before. You've done it a couple times, but you guys have both done it once. Is where they sit there and you ask the first person, then they answer, and then you go start with the second person, and you would start with the second person, they answer around robin, you start with the third. So everyone gets asked the same question,
Okay.
and they all answer, and somebody gets a chance to answer first. That's how we've done it in the past, that's how trustee Major did it, but if you want to change the protocol, just make sure that you all agree on it so that I don't want to change it at the last minute so that I make sure.
Okay, so if I understand what you're saying is we're going to ask, say we have 5 questions.
Yeah.
The first question is asked and answered by candidate 1. And then the next trustee asks question 2 to candidate 2, but answered by all the.
Yes.
Okay. Got
And
it.
then so it goes around, everybody answers it.
Right.
It's sometimes easier to be at the end, but sometimes they've taken all your answers, so you get everyone gets a chance to be first.
To be
and last.
first.
Yes.
Okay. Got it.
And then at the end, then it must be in open session, because it has to be by law in open session. Then you guys discuss anything, which you guys have participated in before. And you just end up, the candidates are sitting there, it has to be an open session. So,
Right. Okay.
and then we have pieces of paper that say your trustee name and who you're voting for, so that you can mark it and you pass it down, and then she reads it out loud and tallies the votes. That's how we've done it. If there was a tie, then she has a coin, and there's a coin flip. We've done that. That's several times.
Okay.
So 3 times now. So
So we
that's-
don't, just curious, so we don't use the forced rubric like we do?
We haven't, but you had somebody that brought that up before, and I could certainly create one of those if you would like to do that. It just has to be an open session, but
No, I
certainly
understand.
can do that if you would like.
I just am curious. I mean, I get the whole coin tossy thing, but if we had a forced way of getting there, I mean.
Yeah, actually, trustee Grissom, you had brought that up before. So I'm happy to create that for you with the candidates and use my template if you would like to do that. You know, she's referring to you guys like after the first candidate, that's number 1. After the second, you rank the 1 and the 2, after the third, 1, 2, and 3, and then we put it up there and we do the candidate ranking, and sometimes it's whoever's the lowest score. So whatever the board's desire is, I'm happy with.
I don't have any opposition to that.
Either way.
Sure. I mean, if that's gonna help us best determine the candidate who would. be the
Well, I
best
think
fit.
it wouldn't that eliminate a coin toss? Okay.
Great.
Although.
Yeah.
Does our policy specifically state that, if anything about that? Because I don't want to go against our policy.
No, the state law, the only way that the coin becomes the state law, if there's
Okay.
a tie.
Okay.
You can decide how you want this. If you want to do it force.
They sound like me. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely.
The tie is the vote of the trustees.
Yeah.
So you can have a
Okay.
forced rubric, but ultimately the trustees are gonna have to vote.
Right.
And if it's 2-2, then it's a coin flip.
So you're saying with the forced rubric, if it came out 2-2, then there'd be a
No,
coin
what
toss?
I'm saying is, let's say the forced rubric had 1 candidate, but still 2 of the trustees went for another candidate and officially voted for somebody else regardless. If it's a 2-2 vote, it's the coin.
You see what he's saying?
No.
He's saying we do the forced choice rubric, but then
Okay.
legally the trustees have to do their vote on record on who they vote for.
Oh, okay, on the little
So
paper.
even if we do the forced choice, which could say clearly there's somebody that's number 1 for everybody.
Okay.
All 4 could vote for 3 and 1 or whatever. But that would give everybody an idea about it, and then they still would have to vote. She would still tally it. He's saying even if that forced choice showed somebody and people voted 2-2, so we have to do it.
Oh, okay.
So just because we have a forced rubric doesn't mean that everyone's gonna vote that
That's
way.
exactly what
Right.
this
It means
policy.
people
Okay.
can vote however they wanted
Yes.
to vote. They may
Okay.
say, I don't really care, I want so-and-so.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
That's what I'm
So-
saying.
Right.
okay,
That's
The
what
vote is if it happens to be.
okay. All right, thank you.
So do we do the rubric or do we just continue with our, since we could be forced to do that anyway?
What do you think?
I mean, because we're going to be
We have to vote anyways.
ourselves, I think that the rubric probably doesn't really make
In this situation, yeah.
Okay,
difference.
done.
I think that's true. Maybe if we, have more going forward, we look at it, with the rubric and everything, but the fact that it's just all gonna come down to voting anyway, so that's probably true.
Okay. All right, then, we'll just not use a rubric. One other thing I would like to discuss on I still haven't quite figured out, I have requested okay, let me back up. Policy Committee is reviewing the scholastic drug and alcohol testing procedures, whatnot. Based on that, in reviewing the policy, the board is supposed to have been being provided with reports on, I believe, a quarterly basis to some extent. So I did request that those reports be provided to the board, because if we want to look at considering information, we don't have any data to base why we would want to change something. And Dr. Meyer has provided that. I'm just a little apprehensive because I'm concerned of the identifying information that's in the documents. So Dr. Meyer did ask how I wanted to proceed with that. I had considered the fact that we should probably have the information redacted, because all I really wanted was gender, sport, and what the results were. But because they were working with going back to the beginning, 2018, when this policy was adopted, because it sounds like they were just sort of doing their own thing, and then reports came into play, etc. Does the board care if the district goes through the time to redact everything, or are you okay with getting documentation with identifying information on it? Because we are bound. We have an ethical duty. It is not anything that we would disclose with anyone or discuss amongst ourselves. So I just would like to know how the board would like to proceed in getting that information. A lot of words to make
May
a
I
simple
add one
statement.
more thing that,
Yes.
Just so people know what my concern is, it will take a lot of personnel. There's PDFs and there are sheets of papers that have been scanned in. And so it will take some time I have all the information. I was going to show an example to Trustee Thompson to show her what it would look like. And it would take quite a bit of time to take that information and do a redaction. But we're happy to do it. It just won't be, like, I could give you the information right now. And the two middle levels are not doing drug testing, and the two comprehensive high schools are.
Yeah, because the policy states 7th through 12th grade, but the junior highs haven't done any testing.
So I guess my only question would be is, I don't know what kind of data we're getting. So do we have to have all the data to make a decision, or can we take a sample, one from this year, two from the, I mean, does it really require that we get all the data, or can we just randomly choose some data? Because it's going to be redacted and not necessarily make much sense to us other than see what it was, I assume, date, gender, pass fail, what the pass fail was,
Right.
kind of thing. I mean, obviously I don't need to know a name, but I don't know that do we need all of it?
I don't know how much data it is. I do know, in speaking with Timberlake, they do like one drug test per season. Lakeland is doing it apparently now every 2 weeks. So that's a huge discrepancy, and I don't really quite understand why. So for me, just for my new learning style, I need the data, because how did we get to this point? I mean, did we start out doing this every 2 weeks? What were our numbers at doing it so heavily handed? And why, if our numbers are dwindling, why are we still so heavy handed? So for me, yes, I would like all the data. If the rest of you don't want all the data, then that's.
Well, I guess I'm just wondering if the data is compiled.
It's not compiled, like, it's in a spreadsheet and there's a link and then it opens up and it gives the information.
Yeah.
So
I don't necessarily know that we need to know anything other than some numbers, that's, I think.
Right, which is what I'm.
Right, a pattern of it, yeah. There's just
I don't even care to see the reports
No.
redacted, I would just
Okay.
want to see some totals.
Okay.
Really, that's all
Right, that's
you
what,
really need
yeah,
to know.
exactly.
anyways.
Is this
You know,
really
frequency,
necessary?
totals.
right,
Yeah.
right.
No, I mean, is this necessary? Is all this drug testing
Right,
necessary?
right, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Reports, highlight the information ourselves, why not just have whoever's dealing with all of that, just compile the numbers.
Well, it's in PDF, that's the problem.
If it's okay with the board, what I would really like to do is I'd like to show Trustee Thompson how the data looks, so I can just choose the board chair and show it to her, and then she can say, this is user friendly, this is not, this is how I think the board would like it. And I have to like actually show her what it looks like, because I can't really explain it verbally and have a hard time
Sure.
without, I would just like to show her, if that's okay with you, I think that would be
Yeah.
the next best
I
step.
think that's a good idea. Let's start with that. And if that's something we can sort through and we can use, great. If not, then we'll have it put a different way.
Okay, okay,
Yes,
thank
but
you
I do
guys.
like the idea of getting the statistics.
Well,
I
yeah,
do too. I do too, because it's a lot of
right.
hassle, a lot of trauma for kids, a lot of money. Yes, definitely.
Well, it's kind of hard to advocate for change when you don't even know why we're changing it.
Yeah.
So, okay.
I think that's a good idea.
And then other discussion items. You had talked, it was in the board update about what was discussed in executive session. Does that need to be brought up with regard to the SWD program?
That's in the executive session.
Okay.
At the end of the.
It is, okay,
Already in.
okay. All right, then is there any board member input for future agenda items?
Not off the top of my head. There was something I was thinking that I don't remember what it was. It's not been that important.
You didn't type it down?
Nope, I didn't. I have Title IX bush brain today.
Sure, said it right.
Yeah.
Anybody
You can
else?
send me emails. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Announcements. Do we have any announcements?
Nothing exciting here.
I got bracelets. That's an announcement. Okay. All right, so we will go, we can take action. We may take action to approve, deny, amend, modify, or postpone action on any of the items below. You need to approve to enter into executive session, again, per Idaho Code 742061B. No decisions or actions will be made during executive session. This is the only motion to enter into executive session.
I'll make the motion that we move to executive session per Idaho Code 742061B.
I'll second that.
Hearing a motion in a second, we need a roll call vote.
Yes.
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 Okay.